final session to be as strict and careful with our timekeeping as he has been. And so congratulations to Jim on that remarkable result. And it's a real pleasure for me to be in this position to bring things to a close for what's been, I think, a magnificent week of activity for GEO and a spectacularly successful ministerial meeting. Our session is divided essentially into two parts. The first part is the opportunity for anyone who feels that they haven't said enough yet, or who feel that there is some burning issue on their mind that they want to contribute as we draw things to a close, to do that. I would encourage anyone who hasn't already signaled to the Secretariat that they want to intervene in this session to do so, and to do so without hesitation. I mean, this is your last opportunity of the week to make a contribution. And then we'll move in the second part of the session to the formal adoption of the declaration and the closing statements by the Director of the Secretariat and the co-chairs. So perhaps if we could begin then the first section, which is the final remarks, brief contributions from people who feel they've got something that they want to add. And I'd like to start by giving the floor to Mr. Buti Manemela from South Africa, Deputy Minister of Higher Education, Science and Technology. Please.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chair. I think we'd really like to appreciate the opportunity and to really thank the host for the hospitality that has been given to us. It's been a great pleasure to also participate throughout the session. And I think if it's timely for us to also indicate our support for the declaration. And maybe finally to indicate that we will be waiting for all of you to South Africa in Port Elizabeth next year for our next engagement. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much indeed, and we're all very much looking forward to the plenary meeting next year, and we're extremely grateful to South Africa for putting yourselves forward, so thank you very much for that. The next speaker I have on my list is Mr. David Harper, GEO Principal Director General Environment and Climate Change from Canada.
Thank you, Chair. On behalf of the Government of Canada, I would like to convey my gratitude to the GEO Secretariat Director, Dr. Gilberto Camara, the GEO Secretariat, and the Australian Government for hosting the 2019 GEO Plenary and Ministerial Summit. The Australians have been truly wonderful hosts, and thank you to Stuart and his team. These events continue to be valuable for Canada in engaging with the international Earth observation community. Canada is a long-standing member of GEO, and it is great to see the continued momentum and progress being made by the GEO community. Canada recognizes that building a strong and sustained global forum for EO is a remarkable achievement. Specifically this year, we immediately recognize the value of industry's involvement with GEO through the industry track. Working collaboratively with industry opens up opportunities to leverage significant capacity and innovation to promote the use of EO to solve global issues. Canada is very pleased to have had a strong contingent of Canadian industry with us here in Australia. As a vast country, Canada recognizes the return on investment from Earth observations, particularly space-based missions. Canada launched its RadarSat Constellation mission in June 2019, which supports key priorities in maritime surveillance, disaster management, and ecosystem monitoring. Canada also relies on its strong relationships with international partners to leverage space-based EO in support of monitoring our changing environment. Among many applications of EO, Canada would like to recognize the importance of understanding our global water resources. Elevation information is fundamental to understanding how water moves across the landscape. Canada would also like to note the value of working together towards a global high-resolution digital elevation model. Canada itself is moving towards a national 2-meter DEM. Sharing this kind of data and information openly with the GEO community will help facilitate a better understanding of water as an important global resource. Also, Canada would like to underscore the need for continued efforts of the GEO community, particularly Arctic nations, on increasing the acquisition and sharing of Earth observations of our Arctic environments, where we're seeing unprecedented temperature increases and ecosystem impacts. Finally, Canada is grateful to all members and participating organizations for their past, ongoing, and future contributions, and Canada would like to express its full support for the Canberra Declaration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next on my list, I have Costa Rica, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for giving me the floor. The points that I want to express in this statement are related more with the discussions of 3.3 of the agenda. As Costa Rica, one of the countries of Central America and Latin America, has been contributed to combat climate change. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure for me to speak here in Canberra at the GEO Week 2019 Ministerial Summit. It is also a great honor for me to speak on behalf of the government of Costa Rica. First, I would like to thank the government of Australia for organizing this important meeting, GEO. You have done an excellent job, and we have felt very much welcome to this wonderful country. Cheers to you. I want to share with you our example of leadership and its policies to protect and conserve the environment and preserving Costa Rica's extraordinary biodiversity. We want also to take this opportunity to indicate that Costa Rica, our main priorities on Earth observation are related to monitoring biodiversity in a cost-effective fashion, valuation of ecosystem services, effective implementation of nature-based solutions, disaster risk management related to forest fires, floods and droughts, sustainable agriculture, and the management of water resources. Nature-based solutions are critical for fighting climate change. We know that forests can regenerate naturally without active human intervention. That is the cheapest way and most efficient solution. In some cases, we will need to restore forests actively, including by planting trees. We want Costa Rica to be among the top leaders on environmental sustainability. Another innovative solution to protect biodiversity and to mitigate climate change is the ecotourism, which is the main income of Costa Rica. Our climate and development goals are delimited in our national decarbonization plan that we are very committed. We have set our priorities to achieve this goal, including our ambition to increment our forest covers land to a 60% of our territory by 2030, without competing on land use with the agriculture sector, and maintaining our performance in the use of renewable energies for the generation of our electricity, which are more than 98% renewable matrix. Costa Rica is doing this by ensuring payment for ecosystem services. It is about achieving zero net emission by 2050, and we can get co-benefits for all SDGs. Our commitment is to full decarbonization by 2050 in the line with the objective of the Paris Agreement. The plan includes targets to reform the transport, energy, waste, and land sectors. The time is now. We hope other countries will join, not tomorrow, but today. We also launched a high ambition coalition for nature and people together with such as Mozambique, Gabon, the United Arabs, and Monaco. It aims to protect 30% of the planet's natural systems by 2030. It is key, and we must engage all sectors of the society. The sector of gender equality, women, youth, children, and all stakeholders, business sectors, and all through public-private partnerships to accelerate change. To support this process, we are currently developing our National Land Use, Land Cover, and Ecosystem Monitoring System, CMOCUTE, under the coordination of the National Center for Geoenvironmental Information, CENIGA, of the Ministry of Environment and Energy. The system will deliver different types of high-quality information products constructed from a participatory process that has integrated key stakeholders from public and private institutions related to the agro-environmental sectors. Still, there are a lot of opportunities of scaling up what we are doing in Costa Rica with the international agenda related to the GEO and the AmeriGeo process. In a recent visit of the Secretariat, we presented our proposal to consider Costa Rica as a hub to integrate the countries and organizations in the Central American region, taking advantage of our local experience, institutional capacities, best practices, lessons learned, infrastructure, and knowledge. Knowledge that in order to succeed in the accomplishment of our National Sustainable Development Goals and the 2030 Agenda, and to contribute of the achievement of the Paris Agreement. It is necessary to share our information and work together with the entire planet to guarantee that we leave no one behind. Finally, we want to express the support of the government of Costa Rica to the Canberra Declaration of the Group of Earth Observation 2019 and the Program of Work. We hope to inspire all nations to take action, bold action, for a healthy and safer world, for an environment that serves the people and planet, for generations to come. May the example of Costa Rica inspire us all to step up and make a difference for life and for humanity. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much for that very powerful intervention. I turn now to Germany, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As this session is about covering other matters, I will put aside 1.5 pages of praise for the work of GEO and thanks for our hosts. Ladies and gentlemen, many of the federal agencies and institutions forming part of my delegation here work through GEO with international partners in developing and developed countries. They share data and knowledge and learn from each other. Open data sharing and close cooperation are key to our success of this work. But simply making data freely available is often not enough, especially if we look at the situation of developing countries and small island developing countries, including in the Pacific. If we want to enable these countries to translate our beautiful high-tech space data into concrete action, for example, in pursuit of reaching the 2030 Agenda, we have to include in our cooperation a strong capacity building and training component. Because we need competent partners in all countries, whether or not they are GEO members. If Earth observation scans the entire world from above, we cannot afford blind spots on the ground. In that sense, Germany will continue to support the work of GEO strongly and in a broad manner, both through national and EU contributions. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Germany. The last speaker I have on my list is for the United States, co-chair Jim Riley. Please, Jim.
Thank you, Patrick. I would like to propose that we add to our declaration, if I may, a paragraph extending our thanks with our deep appreciation to the Government of Australia for graciously hosting this 2019 Ministerial Summit in Canberra, and express our sincere gratitude to the many GEO participants from around the world for their contributions to the mission and the impact of GEO. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I think we can take it that that was a vote of unanimous support for a very well-deserved suggestion. So I agree. Thanks very much, Jim. I suggest that we do take that on board. And that makes then, I think, an excellent transition to the second point under this block, which is the formal adoption of the Canberra delegation. And just to set the scene for our discussion, I mean, I think that the next years are clearly going to be crucial in terms of delivering on GEO's vision. This is, for me, the message that has come through most clearly from our discussions during the course of the Ministerial today, but also through all our work earlier this week. And I think that the important thing about the Canberra Declaration is that it not only refers to the ongoing work and the progress that we have been, the GEO community has been making over past months and years, but it also calls some resounding calls and resolutions for future action targeting the institutions that we represent. The preparation of this declaration has been a collective effort. It's the result of an extensive consultation process that was conducted, which was led by the Ministerial Working Group under the guidance of the Executive Committee. And I want to thank, in particular, the colleagues who worked so hard to take on board the very, very many rich and important inputs that we've received from all of you. The Ministerial Working Group distributed a first zero-order draft to the GEO community for consultation, review and comments. We received many comments, both from members and from participating organisations, and this led to a revised draft which went for a further round of consultation and review, and then the revised negotiated text was communicated to ministers recently and to GEO principals by Minister Canavan. As you will see, the main themes of the declaration are firstly to acknowledge the very impressive and real progress that has been made and the appreciation of the very significant efforts that have gone into producing these important results. A second important theme on the importance of investments in the digital economy and the critical role of Earth observation. A recognition of the inclusion of developing island nations, taking advantage also of our presence here in the Pacific region. An important recognition of the benefits of regional, national, subnational, and individual communities and businesses. That this is a collective effort that requires mobilization at all levels. And also something, and this I think resounds with the comments just a moment ago from our colleague from Costa Rica, the need to ensure benefits that are available for all countries and that no one is left behind. We also, I think in the declaration, rightly realize and contribute to the success of the Geostrategic Plan for 2016-2025 and to build on efforts to support international policy agendas. And I think it's also right that the declaration should include a clear recognition of the need for us all to intensify our efforts in support of the engagement priorities of GEO, whether it's action on climate change, disaster risk reduction, or our broader commitment to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. The declaration also calls on the parties to meet again at ministerial level in 4 years' time, to assess GEO's progress towards the goals, objectives and priorities, and to consider new challenges and themes to guide consideration of GEO's future beyond the term of the current strategic plan. And so what I'd like to do now is to call on representatives from each of the geographical caucuses to present their views on the declaration before we move to, I hope, its formal adoption. And I would like to start with the representative of the Asia Caucus, which will be from Cambodia, His Excellency Dr. Poch Bunak, who is Secretary of State in the Ministry of Planning. So Cambodia, please.
Dear colleagues, I am honored to make this statement to the Geo-Ministerial Summit on behalf of the Asian Oceanic Caucus. We, the members from the Asian Oceanic Caucus, endorsed the Canberra Declaration. We supported and agree with the directions it sets for our joint future. The Asian Oceanic region holds 2/3 of the world's population, all land types, all levels of development, and is the most vulnerable region in the world to natural disasters. In this context, I would like to highlight several key areas of the declaration. First, we recognize the success of the GEO community, including the Asian Oceanic Caucus, has had in driving progress in the policy areas highlighted 4 years ago in Mexico City, including expanding the use of Earth observations to drive sustainable development, to support disaster risk reduction, and to help us address climate change. Caucasus play a unique role at the regional level in driving cooperative action and decision-making by members enacting upon our vision of a world where decisions and actions are informed by coordinated, comprehensive, and sustained Earth observations. Second, we recognize that Earth observations play a critical role in driving productivity and sustainable economic growth, and also note the opportunities and challenges that digital economy brings to GEO. We encourage full, secure, and open sharing of Earth observation data and knowledge. The sharing will be critical in driving deeper integration of Earth observation technologies into the digital economy. We will maintain and develop our close connections with regional economic organizations such as UNESCAP and APEC, and support their efforts to minimize the digital divide between developing countries and developed countries. We will work to ensure full utilization of digital technologies to benefit the sustainable social and economic development of the region. We resolve to co-develop a more result-oriented approach to the use of Earth observations that helps push forward the prosperity of our Caucasus, as well as supporting global effort. Third, we highlight the unique needs of developing countries, as well as those countries with severe exposure to disaster risk, climate change, and sustainable development challenges. We emphasize the regional coordination function of the Asia-Oceanic GEO, and will take actions to connect and integrate the Earth observation efforts of each nation in our Caucasus. In particular, over the next 4 years, we will work to demonstrate the value of Earth observation in 3 priority study areas: the Mekong Basin, island states, and the Himalayan mountains. Meanwhile, we will further develop capacity building activities in our Caucasus by sustained training programs and joint research efforts. Fourth, we recognize the increasing role and the value of the commercial sector in Earth observations and encourage increased commercial sector involvement with a strong sense of social responsibility. We resolve to provide a broader platform for the commercial sector to develop products and services that serve the public good, utilizing Earth observation data, information, and knowledge. We will promote all-round cooperation with all stakeholders, including data providers, value-added services, and end users, covering the whole value chain to realize industrialization of Earth observations. We are delighted to see the global cloud platforms can support the sharing and service of Earth observation data, which is an important approach to promote the construction of the global Earth observation system of systems, which GEO seeks to develop. We will propel an all-round upgrade of the Earth observation system by the collaboration with multiple cloud computing services and big data platform providers, and look forward to seeing more resources invested in GEO. We commend the Canberra Declaration to our fellow ministers and their representatives, and we pledge to support its implementation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that statement on behalf of the Asia-Oceania Caucus. And I move next to the Africa Caucus. And I'd like to call on Mr. Buti Manamela for South Africa. Please.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think just to firstly indicate that it has been a great pleasure working on this declaration and for all the cooperation and collaboration that we've received, and to further indicate that we fully support the declaration. We have made our contribution, and we believe that the declaration is a reflection of the contribution we've made throughout the deliberation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And now we move to the Americas Caucus, and we have the Ambassador of Colombia, His Excellency Mr. Alberto Jose Meya Ferrero. Please.
Ministers, geo-principals, ambassadors, distinguished delegates. My name is Alberto Mejia. I'm the Ambassador of Colombia to Australia. And it's my pleasure to join you at this Geo-Ministerial Summit. Today, I address you as the voice of our region, AmeriGeo. As the representative of our region, I have the privilege and the responsibility to discuss aspects that are important to our region and to the global community, including the need to remain responsive to communities not formally engaged in GEO, whose core activities rely on Earth observations. AmeriGeo is focusing on strengthening the regional participation of member countries and reaffirming our commitment to the global GEO priorities and to our priority areas. We welcome El Salvador and Guatemala as the new GEO members and Red Clara as the new participant organization in GEO. We also welcome Chile, Peru, and the United States as the new chairs of the Americas Caucus, and as the regional representatives of the GEO Global Executive Committee. The national and regional challenges we face today are truly multidimensional, affected by the changing environment and human migration, as well as food and health security, among other concerns. These complex challenges require complex solutions. Increasingly, Earth observations play a fundamental role in enabling security for all nations. Earth observations foster greater understanding of challenges and help us to see the interconnectedness among the environmental, human health, food security, transportation, sustainable development, and economic prosperity. As such, Earth observations provide critical input to the informed decision-making from highest level of government to local communities, tribes, to individuals. Our region of the Americas is home to some Earth's most crucial systems that are key to the sustainability of the planet Earth. The Amazon rainforest is vital to the health and well-being of not just our region, but the whole world. The Amazon rainforest is a vital carbon sink, mitigating the greenhouse effect. The Amazon rainforest is home to more than 1 million indigenous people and a rich biome of more than 3 million species of plants and animals, some of which may hold the cure to human diseases. The Amazon basin is affected by human activities and by the impact of climate events. In 2019, data from satellite observations showed that the number of fires had increased over those in 2018. In response to this event, this past September, 7 South American countries signed a pact to protect and achieve a sustainable development of the world's largest tropical rainforest, setting up a disaster response network and satellite monitoring. 4 of these countries, Brazil, Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru, are GEO members with national organizations leading activities aligned with the GEO vision. This pact seeks to increase the satellite monitoring of deforestation, share information on threats to the forest, like illegal mining, develop reforestation and education initiatives, and increase the participation of indigenous communities in protecting the Amazon. Our responsibility at America Geo is to ensure that the key parties receive timely and reliable information to support the advancement of this pact. Our ability to provide timely and reliable information is driven by open access to coordinated and sustained observations. I'm proud of the AmeriGeo Championship of Open Data to the Americas Geos platform. At the creation of the platform in 2017, there were only 7 countries sharing data, and I'm proud to say that as of 2019, 17 countries in the Americas stood up open data platforms at the national scale. We are integrating data from these 17 countries in the AmeriGeos platform, including countries that are not GEO members. The AmeriGeos platform has prompted our countries to share not only Earth observation data, but also social and economic data that is critical for answering multidimensional challenges. In the AmeriGeo Week 2019, the participants reaffirmed the 4 priority areas of AmeriGeo: agriculture and food security, biodiversity and ecosystems, disaster risk reduction, water resource management, and water resource management. Participants also identify health as an area of strategic importance for AmeriGeo. During the same week, the Americas Caucus agreed to enhance National Geo's support of GEO activities within the Americas region and request that all GEO's activities and flagships with interest or projects in the region provide information about their activities to the AmeriGeo Coordinating Working Group. I would like to highlight a few examples of the Earth observation-related work by GEO members of the Americas towards the collective public good through the Americas Geos. The United States has over 10 years operated the GeoNetcast America system, which uses the commercial Intelsat 21 satellite to broadcast environmental observation data to an area covering most of North, Central, and South America. This allows access to vital information in parts of the region that may be limited in their telecommunications infrastructure. Peru dedicates all its capabilities for the development of aerospace technologies for the benefit of the national development of Peru. This year, Peru hosted AmeriGeo Week, where we provided training in the use of Earth observations to more than 150 participants. Observations collected through the development of national surveillance system, Peru will increase the security levels in the Amazonian region and contribute to the fight against illicit drug trafficking, smuggling, terrorist activities, environmental degradation, deforestation, and biodiversity reduction. Colombia has achieved significant progress in establishing a national GEO coordination mechanism and is one of the most active GEO members in our region, a former co-chair of the Americas Caucus and hosts the 2016 American GEO Week. Colombia active participation in American GEO connects the national institution to key international efforts, including GEO flagships and initiatives that provide information and early warning for climate, deforestation, wildfires, droughts, floods, the state of national resources, land cover, and ecosystems. Chile's participation in American GEO constitutes to draw focus on disaster risk reduction as an area of strategic importance. Through Chile's dedication effort, we are strengthening the capacity of our region to be resilient to disasters. Efforts are underway to hold the Disaster Resilience Workshop in Chile in the last week of March 2020. We applaud the efforts and successes of AfriGeo, EOGeo, and EuroGeo. One of our key objectives is to establish collaboration with other regional geos and to leverage our respective achievements to further programs in all regions. To further develop success, we must keep the momentum through increased participation by countries in AmeriGeo and through new partnerships within and outside GEO. It is with optimism that the future that we announce a new joint work plan with UNGGIM, Americas, and activities related to SDGs and disaster risk reduction. This work plan represents not only collaboration with UNGGIM, but includes collaboration with other regional organizations, including IPGH, GeoSur, and others. We look forward to discussing the details of these partnerships and the other opportunities at the next AmeriGeo Week that will be hosted by Mexico in September 2020. With its leadership role in UNGGIM Americas and long-standing commitment to AmeriGeo, Mexico is actively facilitating the bridge between these two communities. We are pleased that the Canberra Ministerial Declaration places a strong emphasis on Earth observations for sustainable economic development, disaster risk reduction, on increased engagement with the commercial sector, and on expanding the accessibility and use of Earth observation by all nations and people, leaving no one behind. The members of the Americas Caucus heartily endorse the Canberra Declaration. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. And now I'd like to move to the European Caucasus and invite our colleague, the German Ambassador, His Excellency Thomas Fitschen. Please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. It's a particular pleasure for me to present some observations on the Canberra Declaration on behalf of the European Caucus, and I'm stepping in at short notice for Ambassador Michael Pulch from the EU, who unfortunately cannot be with us this afternoon. The European Caucus is pleased that GEO has seriously engaged in discussions with key stakeholders in all three priority areas. As Europe is particularly interested in climate issues, we would like to emphasize that GEO partners tie up with the UNFCCC and the IPCC, as this will help to provide the right information derived from Earth observation straight to the climate community. 2, we consider it very important that GEO members reiterate their commitment to the maintenance and evolution of the GEOS infrastructure as a public good, and to integrate the additional components needed to move from a data-oriented infrastructure to a knowledge-based infrastructure, because that's where we have to go. My third point, we recognize the value of Earth observation for downstream users and decision makers. In that sense, Earth observation can be an important vector for innovation and sustainable growth. In sum, and that will not surprise anyone in this room, we do support the Canberra Declaration. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. And now I turn finally to the representative of the CIS Caucasus, the GEO principal from Russia, Sergei Upensky, please.
Well, thank you, Chair. Ministers, distinguished guests, while it's the first time Russia has the floor today, I'd like to express our deepest appreciation to the Australian government and, of course, to the Secretariat for the perfect organization of this event and a warm welcome. And special thanks to GEO Principal from Australia, Dr. Stuart Minchin, for all his efforts. So, no, that's not it. Okay, so in Russia, we currently have 11 Earth observation satellites and more to follow in the coming years. And Russian Federation, as a member of International Charter on Space and Major Disasters, effectively monitors emergency situations inside and outside Russia, We joined the International Society for Digital Earth, International Society for Photogrammetry and Remote Sensing. We are sharing the Earth observation data with the global community via direct broadcast and other means. And on behalf of the CIS caucus, and Russia represents the CIS countries here, for those who don't know, CIS stands for Community of Independent States. I'd like to say that we fully endorse the Canberra Declaration with the recent addition proposed by the US, namely Dr. James Riley. We recognize the importance of Earth observations and the benefits for the sustainable economic growth caused by the data sharing. We believe GEO plays a crucial role in demonstrating various ways the Earth observations can be used, and the declaration, together with GEO strategic plan, outlines the way forward. Thank you for your attention.
So this is the big moment, and I'm sorry that I don't have the hammer that our Chinese colleague was using with such dramatic effect yesterday. But it is a humbling and I think an extremely moving experience to be the person who presents on behalf of the co-chairs and I think on behalf of us all, the question which is, do we, the ministerial representatives at the Ministerial Summit in Canberra, do we endorse the Ministerial Declaration as it's been drafted and with the addition proposed by our American colleagues? So for the record, I guess that means yes, right? Good. Well, look, thank you all very much for that session, and thank you very much in particular to all the representatives of the regional caucus for your thoughtful and very rich contributions. And I think now we just move to the very final section of our meeting, which is the closing remarks by the Director of the GEO Secretariat and then by the co-chairs. So I'd like to start by asking Gilberto Camara, the Director of the Secretariat, to share with us a few final thoughts. Gilberto.
Good afternoon, and it is my pleasure and my honor to address the GEO Ministerial Summit. So the first thoughts of the Secretariat are of thanks to all of you for what you just did, which is the endorsement of the Ministerial Declaration, because this is the key event where you reaffirm your renewed support for GEO and for what it does. And of course, the day-to-day actions being carried out by the Secretariat and by the diverse elements of the GEO Work Program and the GEO Program Board. So we see this as a major support for you, for us to continue our mandate, and we thank you very much for that. We note also that this has been a major week for GEO, where an enormous amount of progress has been made and enormous momentum has been gained. We need to just go back a little bit and remember that in 2002, when we convened in Washington of the Earth Observation Summit, it was a huge aspiration we had. It took 5 years, from 2002 to 2007, before we first could adopt what now is consensus. At that time, it was not a consensus, the GEO's data for sharing principles. And now everybody is rightly understanding the value of free and open data. And this has resulted in a substantial amount of new advances which were made in the plenary and the ministerial, and the GEO Secretariat would like to acknowledge and thank the announcements that have been made here of financial pledges to its for its maintenance by the European Commission, Australia, Japan, South Africa, US, China, Sweden, UK, Canada, and the Netherlands. We also acknowledge with enormous pleasure the advancements that we made on data policies with the announcements which were quite important from China for its Gaofen series of satellites, Gaofen 1, Gaofen 6, and from Japan for this ALOS and ALOS 2 satellites, which is most welcome for us all. Thank you very much, China and Japan. We also welcome the important announcements, of course, this has been long in the making, of the advancements of Digital Earth Africa, which is, of course, being made possible through an enormous support for Geoscience Australia, but also contributions from South Africa, USGS, the Helmsley Trust, and the commercial sector. I would like to stress that the Secretariat welcomes very much the offer from Australia of a seconded expert, and that the Secretariat will be putting full support of the Digital Earth Africa as one of its priorities. We would like then also to acknowledge the renewed emphasis that we had on commercial sector engagement, where we had the announcements from Google and Amazon as important highlights of our plenary and ministerial. We had also an important presence from the indigenous communities who just signed a commitment to have representations in GEO and to use those observations to defend their traditional lands and their rights, which is most welcome. And therefore, I would note that what we are going now is moving from the early aspiration of 2002 to what I would argue is concrete steps towards what we say the system of systems. I would dare to say that Digital Earth Africa is one of the building blocks of a system that we dream about, a whole continent now with sharing data publicly based on Earth observations, and that we will allow countries on that region to use. And we know this is one of the elements of what was in the past a vision and now is becoming a reality. We would like also to encourage and particularly encourage the member states represented here and the participating organizations to increase their investments and their support for the GEO actions in the Secretariat on the climate matters. A climate crisis is urgent, and we really would ask you to look at which additional investments, both financial, personal, institutional, you can make to support the actions that the GEO Secretariat needs to do regarding climate matters. Your help is needed and appreciated. Finally, we need to acknowledge that everything we have achieved has been achieved through tremendous work. I don't think it's ever necessary to remind us again of the Australian contribution, the contribution of personal commitment by Stuart Minchin. We would like to indicate that from this year, the Secretariat has the honor of having the lead co-chair from South Africa, where Boneni has been a fantastic guiding role for us. Thank you so much, Boneni. You've been such a great supporter of the Secretariat. We would like to thank the Ministerial Working Group for hard work that led to a smooth adoption of the Canberra Declaration, not like we had in other plenaries dragging on for hours and days, and this being so smooth because a lot of people worked very hard. And finally, my thanks to the team of the Secretariat, and I would like to highlight two people who have, sweat through these years, and I hope they deserve to get a rest, which are Patricia Geddes and Stephen Hamage. And please allow me to ask you for a big one. So it is my pleasure, this is my second, and then there will be a third and final plenary. So this is midway through my personal commitment to GEO. And I am very pleased that through your support, Secretariat Director, I think we've been able to achieve a lot. I think we have to be proud of what we've done. The Secretariat is certainly proud of what we've achieved. I have a friend that said that some international organizations proceed at a glacial pace, and I like to say, yes, we are proceeding at a glacial pace, but a glacial pace by climate change, which is really fast right now. So we're at the glacial pace in the climate change world, which is moving fast. And of course, we need to move fast because the climate crisis is real. It is our life changing, and we need to be very attentive to that. Thank you so much for your support, and we look to continued support in the next year. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Gilberto. I'd now like to pass the floor to China, please. Mr. Li, Dr. Li, you want to come here?
Dear ministers, ambassadors, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, we spent the whole day for the Ministerial Summit. We have a great achievement with the declaration. So we should say thanks for all the industrial work for the preparation of this summit and the conference. Especially the summit is very rewarding and productive. We have released this Canberra Ministerial Declaration and completed all the items on the agenda. On behalf of China Minister, I want to thank our host Australia for its hospitable and thoughtful arrangement. I think the co-chairs and all the staff members of the GO Secretariat for their hard work. Yeah. I also want to thank all my GO colleagues for everything they have done for this great event. Congratulations on the success of 2019 GO Ministerial Summit. We reviewed the major achievements made by GO since our last summit, reaffirmed the nature and the task of the GO as an intergovernmental organization, shared with each our respective efforts to integrate Earth observation into the digital economy, made a shared commitment to pursuing high-quality development of GO, and adopted Canberra Ministerial Declaration. It's fair to say that the event has once again demonstrated the spirit of consolidation, joint contribution, and shared benefit, which drives the cooperation in a new area and produce the fruitful result. In the coming working year, China will continue to fulfill its commitment, actively promote the construction of national, regional, and global Earth observation systems, share China's experience in alleviating poverty and growing digital economy with the support of Earth observation, and enhance the capacity of developing countries in the application of Earth observation technologies. We will work closely with our colleagues to deliver on GO 2016 to 2025 strategic plan, acting on the outcomes of the summit and the Canberra Ministerial Declaration, enhance the integration of Earth observation and the digital economy, address the three engagement priorities of sustainable development, disaster risk reduction, and climate change response, promote the deep involvement of developing countries, and also will make more effort on standard calibration field internationally to give a better delivery of benefit of geoinformation for the Earth observations to the international community and the people around the world. Next February, the Geo Data and Knowledge Week 2020 will be held in Beijing, China. We look forward to the presence and the participation of all the countries. I wish to see you there. Now I declare the closure of the Ministerial Summit now. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'd now like to pass the word to Jim Riley on behalf of the United States. Jim.
Yeah, thanks, Patrick. First, I want to echo Gilberto in that thanks to everyone who put this event on. It's a huge amount of work. Having had the pleasure of doing something similar but much smaller than this, I know exactly how much of an effort it was, and it went off almost seamlessly. Well done to everyone. Also, thanks to all of our delegations, the folks that have done all the real hard work for months getting ready for this. I know ours has been totally dedicated to it for quite some time, and I just sort of come in and get a chance to sit up here and say wonderful things about all the hard work that they did, and they know how hard they actually worked. So thanks to all of the delegations who put all this together. In closing, I want to say we have a very large responsibility that we've been talking about all week, and that is essentially trying to figure out how to define and understand this planet, and it's very complex. But let me give you something a little bit different in terms of how I kind of scope it mentally. On my first flight, and it's the same anytime you go to space, anytime you get to the window, the first time you look out, and the first thing you think is something on the order of, holy mackerel, look at that, or something maybe slightly more profane. Because the visual that you get of our planet is incredible. The beauty is intense. The number of colors that you see, the shades of colors are unimaginable, and the textures are more complex than any image can ever convey. It just doesn't do it justice. And so I've been thinking about that, all week, about how are we characterizing this planet? And when we get to the data-driven parts of what we've been talking about, how large is that? And so to put it into a context, I think of the basic colors that we can see on the planet as basically being a system. And if you think of all the shades of the colors that you can see, each of those shades is a subsystem, you start to get an idea of just how complex this entire place is. And everything has shades. Even what you think might look uniform in the oceans, as an example, are not. They have very different shading across the oceans depending on what's happening to them. So you can imagine, if you will, just how many variables we're dealing with in trying to describe this planet. So, bottom line, we have a very large responsibility in front of us. We have a lot of work to do, and we can't do it unless we all do it together. And so as we look into the things that we have talked about, the data cubes, the open data, the concepts of transportable information, the revolutions that are coming in front of us in terms of how we're going to first work with the data, how we'll transfer that knowledge from place to place, how we'll incorporate the machines, the cloud-hosted solutions, high-performance computing, the artificial intelligence, the machine learning, all of that is going to revolutionize what we are doing. And we have to, because it is a big and very complex place. And finally, at the last, I want to say, again, a challenge that we've got in front of us, and that's to pass this passion that we have for our planet on to that next generation, the people that are coming behind us. We have to give them the challenges. We have to break down those barriers, the cultural ones in many cases, where they don't enter the STEM professions. For whatever reason, and there's any number of reasons why they don't. We need to give them the things that challenge our kids. They're just waiting for it. They're digital by nature because of who they are these days. We're not, but they certainly are. And so let's give them the challenge to do the data cubes and turn those data cubes into data lakes and turn those data lakes into actionable intelligence that we can use to manage our planet. And let's do it in a fun and different way. That should be all part of our challenge here as part of GEO as well. And I really appreciated some of the presentations that we've had over the last week, specifically along those lines. It's given me a lot to work on, and I fully intend to follow up on it. And then finally, I want to say, we all have to be just ruthlessly focused on the science. This is what we do. The science is the information that allows us to drive good policy. If we don't have good science, we don't have good policy. And so I want to finish with that and say thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. It was indeed my first time here. As I mentioned, I never anticipated, nor did I prepare to sit on the front table. but apparently I made it through okay because nobody walked out on me so far. So thank you very much. Again, thank you, Patrick, for the opportunity to help close the session, and thank you to everybody for all the work that we've done this week. Thank you very much.
Perhaps I could make now a few remarks as co-chair for the European Commission. I want to sort of take forward a little bit the discussion that Jim has sort of teed up here on our collective global responsibility. And I want to share with you something that I first saw in a presentation from the Director General of the European Space Agency. He opened a conference with a big picture on the screens, and unfortunately I don't have it here, so you're going to have to use your imagination. It had two planets. One was a beautiful, peaceful planet that looked a lot like the Earth. Blues, greens, clouds, peace. Just the sort of image that I guess, Jim, you were seeing as you were orbiting the Earth in your earlier professional life. And then there was a second planet, which was a really sort of angry-looking planet, all yellow and red and sort of bubbling, sort of evil clouds surrounding it. And the first planet, the nice, peaceful one, said to the second one, "Oh, you look terrible. What's wrong?" And the second one said, "I've got this awful case of Homo sapiens." And the second planet said, "Oh, don't worry, mate. It doesn't last long." Now, I think that sort of captures not only the scale, but the urgency of the challenge of the work we're doing, and the necessity for us to take forward what we've been discussing here and what we've laid down formally in the Canberra Declaration, and sort of transform this sense of collective common purpose and translate that into a determination for individual action. So while we've all enjoyed hugely interacting here, we are massively grateful for the impeccable hospitality and the perfect organization of our Australian hosts, the magnificent support that we received from Gilberto, and I'd like to pay tribute personally to Gilberto as well as all his colleagues in the Secretariat, and also to my fellow co-chairs and the teams who support our work. I also want to thank Mumbenya in particular for his work as lead co-chair over the last year, and also to our Chinese friends who will be taking on the huge responsibility in the year to come. But as we leave this very rewarding and sort of pleasurable experience that we've all enjoyed here in Canberra, helped, of course, by the beautiful and peaceful weather, we need to think about the substance of what we've been discussing and take back not only the warm words, but a determination to act. And I'm sure that that's the spirit of the GEO community, and that's what we will all do in the coming months. So thank you all very much. And now I'd like to pass the floor, to South Africa for the final closing.
Thank you, Chairperson of the session. As always, the end is always a painful moment to any meeting or conference, but I suppose the somberness of parting ways is made bittersweet by the progressive declaration and resolutions which we have reached. Now, GEO has been and will always play an important role in the coordination of Earth observation activities, especially in our continent, the African continent, where there's limited indigenous space-based resources and platforms to access critical Earth observation data. And so as a founding member, South Africa played a significant role in the establishment of GEO in 2005. And now as a lead co-chair, we continue to support the work of GEO to ensure that its objectives are realized. And part of this include the role we play in the implementation of GEOs in Africa, and our support for the hosting, for instance, of the Africa GEO Secretariat by the Regional Center for Mapping Resources for Development in Nairobi, Kenya. And we note the discussions and contributions of the previous Ministerial Summit and recognize the work of GEO since the last summit, and would like to reaffirm our commitment to participate, contribute, and support the summit going forward. Chair, if you allow me to thank our host, Minister Canavan, and Team Australia for hosting us so well, and they so secretly told me that they will generously give each of us a live kangaroo to live with. And I send our appreciation to the Geo Secretariat Director and the Secretariat team for the work done to deliver us a successful Geo Week and Ministerial Summit. And to my fellow co-chair ministers, it has been a great pleasure leading the summit deliberations with you. Ministers, ambassadors, distinguished guests of the Geo community, we as the leadership of Geo have adopted the declaration that aims to provide political guidance for the next 4 years of Geo. And it is my belief that through the commitments and investment declared not only today but in the plenary in the past day, we will continue to work together for the betterment of our world through Geo. And South Africa confirms its commitment to Geo, and I would personally, as I indicated earlier, like to invite you all to South Africa for the 17th Geo Plenary 2020 in Port Elizabeth. And I hope that the hospitality would be the same or as you would expect it. Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much, and that's really something to look forward to. So I'd just like to close now by inviting Stuart Minchin to say a few final remarks and to formally to close the session. Stuart, please.
Thank you, Patrick. No, the rumours aren't true. Australia hasn't given me a promotion to minister in order to keep me. Minister Canavan has unfortunately been called away on urgent business and has asked me to deliver his farewell address to you all, so his apologies. Chair, Ministers, Excellencies, distinguished delegates and guests, it's been an honour to host this important event which will guide the Geo community for the coming 4 years. We leave here today with a deep appreciation of the value of Earth observations to the sustained growth of our economy and to the increased opportunities in the digital economy. As ministers spanning the space, agriculture, defence, resources, science, education and other portfolios, we recognise the great application of Earth observations across many sectors. And through GEO, we are able to work more strategically and effectively into the future, supporting both our international goals and our national development priorities. Thank you again for your insights today and for the investments made to ensure GEO can scale up its activities to deliver against its long-term strategic objectives. I wish you good luck and safe travels wherever you are headed. Now, I would drop the mic if I could, so I'll just say safe travels to all my friends. The GEO Summit is closed. Thank you.